Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be getting into an update on my most recent new makeup playtime video. I shared that on my channel, I believe, on January 1st. So I have been testing and trying out these products pretty much for an entire month now, and I'm ready to share my thoughts. Now I know this is kind of what I typically do in my monthly beauty report series, but when I sat down to write up the notes on what products I wanted to talk about, there honestly was just too much stuff. I've tried a lot of new skincare and makeup this month, so I decided to kind of break things down, and I think moving forward what I'll do is a separate update to my makeup playtime series, so that way I'll do a video dedicated just to kind of my final thoughts once I've tested and tried those products for a solid month. And then during my beauty report videos, I'll give you guys my thoughts on other products I featured on my channel in the month and other stuff I've been trying and testing. As far as other general news and updates, if you can't tell, I chopped off my hair. It was kind of an impulsive decision, but maybe not super impulsive. I knew I wanted to cut it. It's been a long time coming, but I essentially woke up on Saturday morning and just said, you know what, I need to make this happen. I found an opening that day, boom, 2 hours later, this is what we got. So I'm honestly loving it. I've had my hair this length before, and this time around I want to try to keep it this way. It's just so much faster and easier for me to style, and with my hair being very fine and straight, when it gets long, it just very heavy and doesn't really have any movement. I don't love it, so we're gonna rock the new do for a while. I'm digging it. Hopefully you guys like it as well. And with all of that being said, I've got a bunch of stuff to tell you guys about, so let's get into things. Now, if you missed the new makeup playtime video that I'm referencing today, I will link it for you up in the cards as well as in the description box if you want to go ahead and check that out and actually see me demoing all these products on my face, applying them. It'll just give you a little bit more of an idea of what they look like in action. But if you did happen to already catch that video, you may remember that at the time I announced that I was chosen as the Maven of the Month by MODA Brushes for January, which was amazing. MODA is an affordable brush brand. All of their brushes are cruelty-free and vegan. They're sold at Walmart as well as online on their website, and they call their influencers that they work with their mavens. So essentially I was the influencer of the month. I had the opportunity to do some sponsored content with them. This video is not sponsored, all that stuff is already done, but I did just want to let you know that the brush set that I featured in that video, which is the Rosé 5-piece kit, you get 4 brushes and a makeup bag. I love these, and I'm not just saying that because I have enjoyed working with MODA, but I had been using their brushes before they approached me about working with them, and I love them. I've recommended them here on my channel many times. For the price, I think the quality is great. They're very soft, they don't shed. You can use them for years and years. If you take care of them, they will serve you very well. I think that they're also aesthetically super cute. This particular style is part of their metallics collection, and I think it's just adorable and girly and fun. All these brush shapes that are in this particular set are very multitasking friendly. You can kind of do pretty much your whole face with these 4 brushes, which is amazing. So if you guys are interested in picking any of these up, I do have an affiliate discount code with MODA. It's not gonna go away after January 31st. It's just gonna go back down to the usual 10%. So just through the rest of this month, if you wanna save 20% on MODA brushes, I mean, they're already a great price. This set's $20, so if you wanna get it for $16, you can use code BLUSHINGBIRDIE at checkout on the MODA website. It'll save you that 20%. It is an affiliate code, so I would earn commissions if you chose to use that, but thank you in advance if you choose to. If you don't want to, that's fine. I just want to throw it out there for you in case you've been eyeing these. I do definitely think they're awesome, and I'm gonna continue to use them, I'm sure, for the rest of the year. Then the next product that I talked about in that video were the Pixi GlowCakes. Now these were sent to me in PR from Pixi, and they are kind of pricey for what I consider to be a mid-ranged brand. So Pixi is a little more expensive than drugstore, but not quite as expensive as a Sephora brand might be. But each of these products retails for $28, which is, I think, think, you know, it's a lot of money. It's more than what a lot of their eyeshadow palettes retail for, which is a little confusing to me. But essentially, these are like a face palette that's all in one pan. So you have an ombre of highlight, blush, and bronzer. The whole pan has a bit of a sheen and shimmer to it. It's not glittery, but it definitely gives your skin a noticeable glow, which if you watch my original makeup playtime, you'll see. Now in that video, I just used this shade, which is Gilded Bare Glow, but since then I've also tried the pink champagne version. And overall, what I've decided is that I don't think that this is a bad product, but it is not something I personally love using, so I will probably pass these along to a friend, particularly someone that has a fairer complexion than me. And this is the thing, these do show up on my skin tone. I mean, I am kind of more in that light medium part of the skin tone spectrum, so it's not like these are too light to show up on my skin. They just are needed to be built up quite a bit. I have to really layer this on in order for it to show up. And with it being shimmery all throughout, I don't love the effect of having shimmery highlight blush and a shimmery bronzer, especially considering that these tones at the bottom here are more contour oriented than like bronzer oriented. So I just felt like having a shiny contour didn't create the correct effect of the shadow that I was looking for. Like the way I have my makeup today, you can see the highlight kind of accentuates the top of my cheekbones, and the shadow kind of, with it being matte, gives that appearance of like a more sharp cheekbone. So I just felt like it was harder for me to achieve that with this product. And considering how expensive it is, I don't know that I could recommend you guys run out and buy these. I mean, I love Pixi, I love their skincare. I definitely have many products of theirs that I've recommended before, but these were just kind of a personal miss for me. On the flip side, something that I completely would recommend and think is absolutely beautiful are the Jouer blush bouquets, or well, specifically this one is in the shade Adore Me, and you get two colors in here, both of which are sort of a light, neutral, peachy pink. And what's funny is that these look, in a way, almost lighter and less pigmented than the Pixi. So these blushes are just ultra sort of smooth and silky, but not too overly powdery. You don't have a lot of kick up in the pan when you use them, and honestly, even just trying to swatch them now, like you don't really see a lot. They don't swatch very well, but trust me, when you actually apply these guys to the cheeks, they look so natural and healthy and beautiful. This top shade up here is a little more matte. This one is a little bit satiny, like it has a slight sheen, but it's not frosty in the way that the Pixi are. And I just cannot stop using this. I wear it almost every single day. Like, I've been trying to rotate through other blushes in my collection. Today I'm wearing something from Sigma, from their blush palette, but honestly, every other day, probably, I'm wearing this guy. I just think the tones in this palette particularly go with pretty much every single makeup look you could think of. They're very neutral, and it's buildable, but it shows up. So you don't have to like cake it on to see color on your cheeks, but if you tap in with your brush and apply, it's not gonna go on making you look like a clown. It's very easy to work with. It blends out nicely. It doesn't fade off the skin after 2 seconds. And also the packaging on this little compact is super luxe, beautiful. It's sleek, it's slim. It would be nice to travel with. So I honestly have zero complaints about this. I'm very, very glad I picked it up. It does retail for, I think, around $30, so it is a little bit pricey, but you are getting essentially 2 full-size pans of blush in here. So if you think about it that way, it's like $16 per blush, which would be a lot less than you would spend for most Sephora brands. So really, long story short, if you were leaning between these two, even though they are different products, there is no highlight in here the way there is a highlight in here, I honestly would say you're better off spending a couple dollars more and getting the Jouer blush bouquets. I think this formula is just really, really solid. If you want a beautiful blush, the Adore duo is killer. Then there were a couple of brow products that I tried out in that video. One was from J.Cat, the other was from Kaja Beauty, and I honestly really have been enjoying both of these guys. So let's start out with the brow pencil. This one's from J.Cat. It retails for $5.99, which you can't beat. It is their Pro-Cision Micro Slim Brow Pencil, and I believe I have this in the shade Ash Brown, although the packaging just says brown. When you go to order it online from Ulta, there is no just straight up brown. So I believe this is ash brown, and in my eyebrows with my hair color, I feel like it's perfect. It's not too dark or too bold, and it's not too warm. It's like a nice kind of neutral brown tone that blends in with my hair nicely. Now, this is nothing new. This is nothing revolutionary. This is essentially like a dupe for the Anastasia Brow Wiz. It's just a microfine brow pencil that has a spoolie on one side and then an automatic micro pencil on the other. Now, I will say this is pretty flimsy compared to even some other drugstore pencils that I've used. Like, the packaging does feel pretty cheap, but the actual product inside is really nice to work with. It's not too creamy, but it's not too stiff. It goes into the eyebrows nicely. It blends out well with the spoolie. It doesn't fade or smear around really on me. So I've been reaching for this on a pretty much daily basis, and I've had pretty much no complaints about it. I have a feeling I will go through one of these fairly quickly though. There's not a lot of product in here. It's 0.003 ounces or 0.09 grams. Now, I don't know. I haven't really looked to see how that compares to the Brow Wiz, but I want to say it's probably similar. Most of these style pencils don't have a lot of product in them. So if you have large eyebrows and you need to do a lot of filling in, you'll burn through these very quickly. For me, my eyebrows are pretty thin, so a pencil like this will last me, I'm sure, a couple months with regular use, but I don't need as much product per application, so that's gonna really completely vary on you and who you are. But honestly, for $6, and knowing that J.Cat is a brand that goes on sale at Ulta, when I picked this up, they were buy one, get one 40% off. I also got some other products as well. So I could easily grab like 2 of these the next time they're having a sale and stock up for a while. So as far as having an affordable alternative to the Brow Wiz, because I like this style of brow product, this one's excellent. I definitely would recommend it. And then we have the Brow Blowout by Kaja Beauty. Now, this is very similar to the Gimme Brow from Benefit. It has that sort of very fine conical shaped little spoolie that you brush the product through your eyebrows. It adds some tint, it adds some fullness, it has fibers in the formula, so it does make your brows look a little bit thicker. And I've grown to like this, but it started out a little bit tricky. Like, I had to learn how to use it in order to enjoy it. So the Gimme Brow, if you've ever used that product before, it's very moussey and dry in formula, or at least it was the last time that I used it. So I sort of feel like when you apply it through the brows, you can kind of like spread the product out fairly easily. It's easy to manipulate and work with, whereas this is much more wet. Not as wet as the Soap and Glory Archery brow that I also tried, but it definitely is more liquidy than the Gimme Brow, which has more of a moussey texture. So you kind of have to be a little careful when you first go into your brows, because you can really glop a lot of product on. And when you have, you know, kind of thinner brows like me, it can be a little crazy. So what I'll end up doing with this is I'll kind of put a little product in one brow and then go and then put more product in my other brow and kind of spread it out evenly before I start to really comb it through and perfect the look of things. Usually once I do that, that will help me to avoid having like one brow looking really dark and the other one not, because one brow is really loaded up with product. And because this is a little bit more liquidy, it is more likely to like get on the skin, which again, if you have really fine eyebrows, is not a bad thing, because you really need to fill in those sparse areas, and you can do that fairly well with this. You just kind of have to use it a few times to get the hang of how it works so you can make it look the way that you want. The other thing I learned about this is it's obviously not the best for like a very precise tail of the brow. Like, it's good for fullness in like the front to the midsection of the brow, and it does have that tapered spoolie, so you can get it to the tail, but you're not going to be able to create that nice sharp point, especially if you have basically non-existent tails of your eyebrow. So you really have to go in and fill those in with a pencil or a powder first, and then go in with this guy to add the full and fluffy kind of effect you get from a tinted brow gel. I did try a few times penciling after I applied this. It's not a good idea. I feel like once this sets the way that it is in the brows, if you try to go in with a pencil, it lifts the product up off of the skin and like rubs it away. So really what I found is the best technique is I'll go in with something like this guy or a little brow palette with powder, and I will carve out my brows, like carve out the bottom to like kind of make those sharper lines. I will draw in the tail, and then I'll go in with this in the front of the brow to add add fullness. So yes, this is a little bit more of a tricky product to use, especially if you're not used to doing your eyebrows. But I think if you're someone that actually likes a more natural look to their makeup, you would really enjoy this because it can allow you to give a more perfected brow without it looking too harsh or like Instagrammy, because it will add that fullness. It adds a little bit of tint, but it's not too sharp, it's not too precise, and you can kind of layer it with other products to get the effect that you want. And while we're on the topic of Kaja, there was one other Kaja product that I tried in my new Makeup Playtime video, and that is this Bouncy Bento eyeshadow trio. I got the Orange Blossom version, and I love this. I think it is so nice and is one of the best easy but beautiful everyday eyeshadow type products I think I've ever bought. So in here you have 3 pressed shadows that are kind of somewhere between a cream and a powder. They feel dry to the touch, but the way that they perform on the eyes kind of reminds me a little bit of a cream shadow, a little bit like the Super Shock from ColourPop. So they're not wet, but they have such a beautiful, like metallic, shiny, sparkly texture to them that they don't feel as kind of dry and powdery as a powder. So I have been using this guy a ton. As you can see, you just have these 3 little pans that all click together. And essentially what I'll do with this is I'll just like go into a matte palette like the Too Faced Natural Matte or the Milani Most Loved Mattes palette. I'll throw some shadow into my crease real quick, just like a light matte transition. You could also use your bronzer if you wanted to like be even more minimal and didn't even want to worry about eyeshadow. And then I will just take my fingers, because I do think this particular product applies best with a finger. With a brush, I think you're gonna have a lot more fallout. It's gonna kind of fluff everywhere because the texture is a little bit more, not flaky, but it has more sparkle to it, and it isn't a cream shadow, so I just feel like with a finger you're gonna have a lot less mess. But essentially I will just take one of these guys and swipe it onto the lid, and oh man, it is just the most beautiful, sparkly, light reflective goodness you've ever seen. Seriously though, how stunning are these shades, and just like the shine and the sparkly finish, and you get this dry without adding any Fix Plus, without adding any kind of glitter glue or anything like that. Although I will say, if you want to improve longevity, putting a glitter primer down before you put these on top will definitely help. But if you just want like a very quick, pretty makeup look that you can throw on in 2 seconds, a little brown in the crease, tap one of these on the lid, throw on some mascara, and boom, you're done. And because these are just so shiny and reflective and sparkly, I feel like they make you look way more fancy than you're actually being. Again, without any kind of a base underneath, without any kind of sticky primer, I think the longevity on this is not out of this world. They will fade if you don't put on anything underneath. With a glitter primer, they definitely will stay for hours. But honestly, if you are doing such a simple look, touching it up is a piece of cake. So if you threw this on in the morning, a few hours later, you just want to bump the intensity up, you just tap on a little bit more and boom, you're good to go. So I 100% recommend these. They do come in several other color varieties. There's like a more pink one, there's a more berry toned one. So you can honestly find whichever one suits your preferences, but just the formula is so pretty. It's so easy to work with. And yes, it's a little expensive in that this retails for, I want to say, around the $20 mark, but you are getting 3 like full-size eyeshadow pans. So compared to the singles that everyone's been really into from like Hourglass and Marc Jacobs, they're like really glittery eyeshadows in a pot where you just get one color. This, you're getting 3 shades that also have an equally like sort of glittery finish for less money. So I think as far as an investment goes, this is such a good like bang for your buck. Now, the other product that I use on my eyes in that Makeup Playtime video was the Violet Voss Holy Grail palette. This is something I got in a Boxy Luxe box. I do film my unboxings of those every 3 months when they come out. So if you want to see the December unboxing, I'll throw it up here in the cards for you. But if you haven't seen this guy before, it's essentially a warm, neutral palette. It's nothing, again, revolutionary or super exciting, but a lot of people love this formula, and I had never tried Violet Voss eyeshadows before I received this. So I've been playing around with this guy quite a bit this month. I feel like I've kind of forsaken other palettes so that I could try this out and use different shadows, create some different looks. And I will say, I haven't disliked a look I've made with this yet. I think it's very easy to work with. They are not the kinds of shadows that are like blowing my mind. They're nothing that I feel like is a step above other things that I've used, but I don't feel like they're bad either. The mattes in here are a little dry. They're not like super buttery. Some of them are more than others. It's a little inconsistent, but the pigmentation is really nice. It's very smooth. It's very blendable. It's very easy to work with. So I find that, like, you know, when I want to put a color into the crease, like let's say this shade hashtag here, I really like this kind of orangey tone to warm up a look. Even though it looks very bright in the pan, on the eyes, it goes on a little bit more buildable, a little bit more subdued, so you can kind of get that perfect blend with it or blend it into other shades, and it's not gonna stick, it's not gonna skip. So overall, my experience with this has been positive. I think the metallic shades, they're nice. They're kind of that sort of standard metallic. They feel very soft and creamy. They are pretty pigmented. They're not like sparkly. They add just more of a shine to your lids. I don't know why I swatched them there. That was awkward of me. But again, they're not the kind of formula that's anything spectacular or special. I feel like everything in here is just solid. It's reliable. It's like if you just want to be able to create a warm everyday look, these shadows are not going to do you wrong. They're going to be pretty easy to work with. You just kind of got to build them up, blend them out. They're not going to give you any kind of trouble, but they're also not going to do anything that's going to really wow you either. So while this is the Holy Grail palette, it's not a Holy Grail for me personally. I do love warm tones, but I do have these shades in other places in my collection. I think this formula is nice to work with, but so are a lot of other palettes that I have. So I kind of still doubt how much I'm going to reach for this on the regular. I'm going to hold on to it. I still want to have it as an option because I've only owned it for a month. But if, 6 months from now, I'm not reaching for this and I'm always reaching for other palettes, I think I would pass it along to a friend. And then the last product that I wanted to update you guys on was the MAC Powder Kiss lipstick in the shade Devoted to Chili. I was very curious about this formula when I bought this lipstick, but honestly, I think I was mostly drawn in by the color because I love that sort of off red, that kind of more rusty orange toned color. It's right up my alley. So when I saw a bunch of YouTubers talking about this, swatching this, wearing this, I couldn't help myself. I needed to try it. I needed to know what it was like. And honestly, the color of this is as beautiful in person as I thought that it would be. I have zero regrets about picking up the shade that I did. But this formula, I don't know how I feel about it. Or rather, I should say I know how I feel, but I can't say that I feel 100% confident about it. So here's the thing with the Powder Kiss formula. It goes on a little bit more sheer, a little bit more buildable. You can make it more opaque, or you can have it just be sort of that blurred, blotted effect on your lips, just like a little wash of color. But it is matte in finish. It's like being Powder Kiss. The idea is that it feels creamy. It has a silicone-y slip, but it doesn't have any shine to it. It's almost like if you imagine the texture of the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer in stick form and a lipstick, but maybe just slightly less slippery. And I don't mind the look that gives. Like, it's very soft. It doesn't accentuate texture on my lips, which I really appreciate. But the issue I have is that it moves. And it's not that it transfers so much, but if you're eating anything, the food is gonna like push that lip product outside of your lip line very easily. I made the mistake of having like a piece of pizza or something like that while eating this, and then I just had like lipstick all over. It was a mess, and that does not happen to me with other lip products that often. So I think what has made me not so confident in this product is that I feel like it's a little dangerous. You have to be careful with this. I think if you had a very nude shade, it wouldn't be as big of a deal, but if you're gonna go with a red or a bold, you're gonna wanna like take it off before you eat anything. And if you're drinking, depending on the cup, you want to be careful that you don't end up smearing it all over your face and looking like a crazy hot mess. But as far as comfort goes, you know, because it is a little bit more slippy, it doesn't feel very drying on the lips, which is nice for something matte, because a lot of times matte products can just feel super drying. So will I continue to use this? Yes, and I'm glad I only have one. I don't think I would buy another lipstick from this formula again, but I don't dislike it enough to not ever want to use it. I just feel like I need to be a little bit more mindful. It's not the kind of thing I'm gonna necessarily wear every day, but when I wanna rock this tone, when I'm feeling it, it's something I'll put on, or maybe if I'm just like going out for the night and not necessarily wearing all day, I'll feel a little bit better about it. Also, side note, MAC lipsticks have a very strong smell. It's very like vanilla-y. So if you're the kind of person that gets a headache from fragrance, be careful with this guy. All right, guys, so that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope it was helpful to hear my updated thoughts on all of these products. If you've tried any of these products, I would love to hear your thoughts on them. So definitely leave a comment. Let me know, what do you love? What do you not love? What would you recommend to other people that are watching this video? Would you tell anyone to buy these things, or would you say like stay far, far away? And let me know how you feel about this style of video. I know I personally enjoy watching like haul updates or updates to first impression videos, because we all know how something applies the very first time. What our opinions are then can change after you've used something for a while. So I want to give you guys the best information possible. That's why I thought it might be helpful after a month of testing to let you know what I thought, but I'd be curious to hear how you guys feel about the whole thing. On that note, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It helps me and my channel out so much. And if you want to see my lovely face again in your subscription feed, click the button before you go, and that way you will not miss out on my next video. Thank you all again so much for taking some time out of your crazy busy days to hang out with me. I appreciate it so much. I hope you have a good one, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.